Bom dia a todos, bem-vindos ao webinar Jovens Cuidadores, uma iniciativa da Câmara Municipal de Vila Nova de Gaia com a Europeu e Cuidadores Portugal. Hoje celebra-se o Dia Europeu do Cuidador Informal e dedica-se este tema aos jovens cuidadores este ano. É nosso intuito aumentar o seu reconhecimento, a sua visibilidade em termos internacionais e lá está, em contexto nacional. É por isso que estas entidades se juntam hoje e se reúnem para realmente fazermos aqui um compromisso, para que com stakeholders nacionais, internacionais, peritos externos, consigamos realmente desenvolver aqui um ecossistema nacional que ganhe realmente tração e posicionamento para todo o território. E é neste sentido que hoje estamos aqui, vamos dar então a primeira palavra e intervenção ao Dr. Elísio Pinto, vereador da Câmara Municipal de Gaia, pelo Pelouro da Juventude. Muito bom dia.
Muito bom dia a todas e a todos. É com muita alegria que faço parte e contribuo com esta mensagem relativamente a Vila Nova de Gaia. Permitam-me, em primeiro lugar, dizer e justificar a ausência do meu colega vereador Manuel Monteiro, que por situações de saúde não pode efetivamente hoje estar aqui connosco, uma vez que seria por mérito próprio que fosse ele partilhar convosco e com esta brilhante plateia, importante plateia, esta mensagem da Câmara Municipal de Vila Nova de Gaia. Contudo, também não ficaria bem com a minha consciência se não deixasse aqui uma palavra de alento e de profundo reconhecimento e agradecimento ao Bruno Alves, porque é o grande mentor, a pessoa que efetivamente tem dado tudo o que tem dentro de si em prol desta causa tão nobre que é os Jovens Cuidadores. E neste momento tão particular em que estamos a celebrar o Dia Europeu do Cuidador, importa aqui deixar esta mensagem de profundo reconhecimento em nome de Vila Nova de Gaia, em nome do Sr. Presidente da Câmara, este nosso profundo reconhecimento. Permitam-me também deixar aqui uma palavra de simpatia ao Rui Lourenço, um grande amigo, e por isso um amigo já que há uns anos, e é sempre agradável vê-lo nestas lides, porque sei que efetivamente ele também está a contribuir com a plataforma para que efetivamente nós possamos hoje estar aqui nesta videoconferência. E neste contexto, eu gostaria também de enviar aqui um abraço de Vila Nova de Gaia para a Europa e para o mundo. Porque Gaia é todo o mundo, efetivamente. Nós também estamos precisamente a celebrar em Vila Nova de Gaia a Tolfer, com cerca de 30 países e 150 técnicos de juventude de todo o mundo. Portanto, é esta Gaia pujante que afirma-se através da sua juventude, mas também de políticas sociais e muito em concreto no âmbito dos cuidadores. Por isso é nosso propósito, e penso que, sem errar muito, penso que a componente dos cuidadores e dos jovens cuidadores fará parte da nossa agenda para o próximo mandato esse em que iremos tomar posse no dia 12 de outubro de 2021. Contudo, eu direi que é fundamental que possamos identificar as diversas realidades, principalmente através do parque escolar. Sentir e ter conhecimento da nossa realidade para depois então construir políticas e respostas que possam minimizar esses impactos negativos nos nossos jovens. E isso a Câmara está disponível, certamente, para assumir as suas responsabilidades e ser aqui, direi, um facilitador, como o Bruno Alves sempre o tem afirmado e o tem dito, para que efetivamente nós em conjunto possamos construir aqui respostas sociais e humanas para que os nossos jovens possam ter uma qualidade de vida melhor. Esse é o nosso desafio, esse é o nosso propósito de Vila Nova de Gaia. E por isso, apesar de todo este reconhecimento, de todo este conhecimento e responsabilidade, também de afetividade que temos que construir para com esses jovens, de ser humano para ser humano. Porque, efetivamente, há jovens que hipotecam muito da sua vida em prol quer do cuidar dos seus pais, quer a cuidar dos seus avós, quer a cuidar dos seus irmãos. E nós, como decisores políticos, temos a obrigatoriedade de olhar para esses casos tão concretos e tão preocupantes e encontrar respostas para diminuir o sofrimento desses jovens. Caro Bruno Alves, esta é a nossa aposta, este é o nosso compromisso, que estou certo que no próximo mandato muito iremos construir em conjunto para diminuir o tal sofrimento e dar melhor qualidade de vida a esses jovens cuidadores de Vila Nova de Gaia. Fica este nosso compromisso, fica com esta nossa intenção e também com este propósito de valorizar os jovens cuidadores de Vila Nova de Gaia. Um bem-aja por esta iniciativa e deixo aqui um abraço de coração aberto a todos aqueles que tenham, através das suas ações, contribuído para a importância que os jovens cuidadores representam, quer em Vila Nova de Gaia, quer em Portugal, quer na Europa, quer no mundo. Um bem-aja a todos e obrigado por este momento e por esta iniciativa. Um bem-aja.
I would strongly welcome to all the participants in this webinar, and I'm very grateful for the kind words of Dr. Elisio Pinto. This is not possible, of course. This is not only a project of Bruno Alves, it's a project of a team. And before starting my presentation and to host this conference, I would like also to highlight acknowledgements to the other city councillors, namely Marina Mendes and as well spoken here today, Manuel Monteiro. Of course, this is only possible with the strong support of Eduardo Vitor Rodrigues, the Mayor of the City Council, and with a strong commitment towards social inclusion. Of course, we also would like to thank other persons involved, like Dr. Margarida Ferreira of the City Council of Gaia and the technical support. But everything is possible because of the commitment of different parts. We are speaking Dr. Vítor Dias from the Instituto Português da Juventude e do Desporto e a Dra. Rosário Fermhaus da Comissão Nacional de Promoção de Direitos e Proteção de Crianças e Jovens. And we would like also to thank the board administration of Centro Hospitalar Vila Nova de Gaia, Espinho, as also my colleagues, and of course the team that has made this a reality. And I'm very, very grateful to Ana Ribas Teixeira, the project manager of the project Younger Cares, here today with me. And as always, my right, left, my support as also as a friend. And also my fabulous team that is made by Joanna, our psychologist, and also our school nurse, Annabelle Sampaio, for all that work that has been developed with Younger Cares. But with no delays, I shall share this message of support of our Mayor, Dr. Eduardo Vitor Rodrigues. Gaia indeed is one of the biggest supporters of social innovation in Portugal. Allied to the vision of a social inclusion can be allied with innovation. Let's hear our president.
A abordagem à temática dos cuidadores informais foi assumida pelo município como uma prioridade. Sabemos que é uma problemática nacional, mas sabemos também que neste contexto urge fazer algo do ponto de vista municipal, pelo menos, enquanto a política nacional não se generalizar a todo o território. E assumimos esta dimensão não apenas na prestação pecuniária que atribuímos, mas também num conjunto mais alargado de benefícios que nos parecem fundamentais, evoluindo posteriormente para uma abordagem que tem que ser uma abordagem de enquadramento de espaço de tempo de férias, de enquadramento de tempo de repouso, para que o cuidador informal possa também, em determinados contextos, cuidar de si próprio. E isso não passa apenas pelo dinheiro, não passa apenas pelos recursos, passa por termos uma resposta de retaguarda que possa permitir que algumas das dificuldades que vamos sentindo que existem no terreno e que não têm resposta para já das entidades nacionais possam encontrar no domínio municipal, no domínio concelhio, uma boa solução. É por isso um momento importante para todos. Considerar não apenas a política social global para os grupos mais massificados, mas olhar também para aquilo que são neste momento microgrupos, em termos de quantidade, mas que em termos das especificidades e das necessidades representam para nós macro prioridades.
And this is really true. Cares in Gaia are one of the macro priorities, as well said by our president. And this webinar is about younger cares. It's important also to hear from their voice, their experiences, what they've lived in their lives. So here today we have Jessica Lerner from Sweden. She is a former Younger Care, public speaker and co-founder and member of Eurocare's Younger Cares working group. She will now share her own personal experiences being a little sister to an older brother with cerebral palsy and epilepsy from his birth. The floor is yours, Jessica, and thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the lesson in Portuguese, a well-needed lesson, I would say. As you said, my name is Jessica Lerner, and I'm from Sweden. I live in Stockholm, our capital city, and I'm a little sister to an older brother with cerebral palsy and epilepsy from his birth. And today I will talk to you guys a bit about my personal sibling perspective and my perspective as a former young carer. And this has really been a challenging and developing journey for me. And this made me experience an exclusion and made me feel a bit lonely sometimes. And that was more when I was younger. But I've also experienced so much love. And to navigate myself in all this, I had to be my very own map and compass. From an early stage in life, I would say, and all this together with other life experiences has really shaped me into who I am today. And I did not feel identified as a young carer during this time in my life. I got identified as a former young carer as an adult. Today I'm 31, so yeah. And my brother's name is John, and you can see him here. He is 3 years older than me. And yeah, that's correct. He's my other half. So, and it's the two of us together with our mom and dad. And he needs help 24/7 with everything in his life. And he has his own way of communicating by using his speech and body language. But he's more like a twin to me nowadays. It has not always been that way, especially during my teenage period in life, where I really struggled with the family situation linked to all this. But we are so close, and I'm so grateful for that, because in the beginning of this year, in January, my brother got the coronavirus and he almost died. He barely did not make it. And it was a really traumatic start of the year, I must say. And against all odds, he survived this. No one understood how. And he spent almost a whole month at the hospital fighting for his life day and night. So it was a really traumatic experience and something I've never been, a situation I've never experienced before. And over the years, we have had to face several different prejudices and attitudes and approaches For example, people still act like he don't understand a thing on his own, and they have to talk to a person beside him over his head about him instead of with him, you know? And there's been a lot of staring and a lot of comments. And I really think that this has to do with the lack of knowledge, insecurity, and a fear of something foreign, something that you're not used to. But I also think there's a lot of curiosity in this, and you don't really know how to handle the situation. In school, some people asked me if he was an alien or a robot or what was wrong with him. I did not want to bring friends home or even guys I dated, because I wanted to protect my brother and my family from all this, and for them not to stare at him when he entered a room or ate a meal, or I just wanted them to act as usual around him as well. And that was often not the case at all, I must say. And I really struggled to try to identify myself with kids of the same age as me. I had to grow up way too fast from my own point of view. And I felt so disoriented and kind of squeezed between different worlds and realities and perspectives. And my needs had to be put aside because of my brother's need of care. And I was very independent from an early stage in life, and my brother needed help with everything from the start. So we were kind of each other's opposite. And my brother's wheelchair is something concrete that you can see with your own eyes. But my feelings and thoughts as a sibling and as a former young carer has always been in the background, more like a shadow. And this is something that we really need to be aware of and to talk about, especially in the school environment. One thought had been, what will happen with my brother if something happens to me, or if something happens to my parents? Will his life end then as well? And how do I handle the feeling of guilt and other feelings and thoughts towards my brother and my parents and my family and other people in my surrounding? And something that really fascinates me is that when a baby next to us drools, it's like people react like it's so cute, you know? And I agree, babies can be cute, but when my brother drools, people react like he's so disgusting. And I really want people to reflect on this. I really experienced a lack of support during my time as a young carer. I did not know where to go or who to talk to about this, who would understand, who would listen, who would have the time, and also lack of several different forums and communities and activities focusing on this specific theme for, together with, and about young carers. For example, to be able to meet others with similar experiences or family situation, or just to be able to do something total different, you know, to feel understood, being in the same context as others, with the main focus on your own needs. And I also think that if my family and I would have received help from the society with coordination, for example, when it came to navigate within the care system with all these contacts and appointments, as well as planning for different trips and activities, I'm sure that this would have helped us and created a well-needed space for us as individuals, as well as a family and together with others. And I also want to mention inaccessibility, because this still makes it difficult for us as a family to join different things together. Sometimes there are no elevator or ramp, or it's out of order, or there might just be some doorsteps to get inside a building. And some sidewalks are not adapted to get on and off with a wheelchair. And as a sibling, I've had to find myself in situations where me as an individual have not been comfortable at all. I really struggled to find a space for my own integrity. And this has been a real struggle. But the thing is that my brother is often the happiest as well as the most grateful person in the room. He can light up a whole room with his positive energy and the way he laughs. And he lives and laughs with his whole heart. And I really admire him for that. That's what I love about him. He just is, you know. And I'm be the change you want to see in the world type of person. That's why the main reason why I do what I do. And I want to be the role model that I did not have when I grew up. So therefore, I've done several different creative collaborations until now. And feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or just want to chat about it. You can contact me through different social media channels, such as LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. But with this said, thank you so much for listening and devoting your time to this specific topic. Take care, guys.
For your nice presentation. It was great to know your life experience and how you, being adult, realized that you were a younger care, and the feelings that were pushed to the background, and the difficulties that they have, but also the positive feelings that you experience being a younger care. Maybe we have some time after to explore some questions. If you are available, we will be glad to hear you more. And now I present Ingi. Ingi is 19 years old and from Netherlands. She cares for a mom with bipolar disorder. The floor is yours, Ingi, and thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'll share my screen real quick. So this is a picture of me and my mom. And like I said, ik ben Inge Romein. So I'm 19 years old. I'm from the Netherlands. I live together with my mom, my dad, and my younger sister. She's 3 years younger than me, and my younger brother. He's 6 years younger than me. And besides a lot of other things, I'm a young carer for my mom. My mom has a bipolar disorder, which means he gets a lot of low periods, especially the depression, but also can be the extreme highs of the emotions. And when I was 8 years old in 2010, my mom got forced hospitalized in a mental hospital because it was so bad with her mental health at that moment. I didn't understand what was going on at that point, and I can't remember that much about it. When I was 15, my mom got hospitalized again. This time it started with a 2 weeks time out, and it wasn't meant to get any longer, but my mom decided, not decided, but stopped eating and drinking in those 2 weeks. So it got bad again, and she had to go to the closed part of the mental hospital. And the medication didn't work that well anymore. So she got a stay with electroshock therapy. And I'm not allowed to say it, but I believe she had too many and too short after each other dose. And she got the last one in December 2018, and she can't remember anything before that. So she only has memory from the last 2-3 years now. And last year, when the COVID started, we were home. My mom lost her rhythm, and with a lot of other things, her mental health got bad again. One of those things was we never got psychological education about it. And my mom didn't remember she had the disorder. She knew she had the disorder, but she didn't know what it really meant. So my mom was like, I don't know what it is. I don't need my medication because I don't know what it is for. And so I thought really early that my mom wasn't doing so well, but no one would listen to me because, yeah, I'm a kid who wants, what do I know? Then my mom got, it's really bad, and then she was hospitalized again in the mental hospital. In this COVID situation, she got COVID there, so I didn't see her for 2 weeks. It wasn't that bad, luckily, but for Christmas, I couldn't see her because there was a COVID patient in her part of the mental hospital, so she was in quarantine then. In 2017, when my mom got hospitalized, I was at school when I got a phone call from my dad that she would have the 2-week timeout. And I feel an enormous amount of guilt because I should have seen that coming and I didn't. I didn't know my mom was doing so bad. And I told my friends about it, and I didn't realize that the first time when I was 8, I thought it was something that would never happen again. And when I was 15, I realized it wasn't something that just happens once, like you get a really bad flu or something. So I immediately went to my mentor because we had a really great bond and I could tell her anything. And she sent me to the well-being organization in my city. They organize every month a come together for young carers. So we cook together, eat together, just talk about it, talk with each other, and do some activities. And when I first heard about it, I was like, "Oh, that's great for my little brother and sister," because that was all I could care about. But it actually turned out to be very, very great for myself because besides not being able to tell your story without being, "Oh, I'm so sorry. How are you doing?" And they just knew. They were like, "Oh, that's terrible. Okay, let's go do something fun now." And besides that, you could do the one-on-one with you could do your story with a adult who knew your situation, who knew what was possible if you need help with anything. But your family is too close, and your friends will always choose your side. So I really thought that was helpful that I could talk to her and she could set things in perspective or could help think about thing solutions for my little brother, for example, who didn't want to do his homework, and I really felt the need to let him do it. And I think I realized that feeling of not being alone in a situation, that's something that's just immediately it was like, I'm not alone. That just helped so much for me. So I went doing some on locals for schools in my city, and later on the national level in the Netherlands, and now we are here. And I think young carers don't only care for us, like in the house. I didn't have to cook or clean because I had really, really sweet grandparents who took those jobs for me. But just that care about just the mental part of it is also a part that's forgotten a lot of times because I would be at school and I would have be my phone always on vibrations, even though I was not allowed to. But also the not getting enough care because I had to take care of my mom instead of my mom taking care of me. And that's also a part that's overlooked, and I think that should get more attention as well. And something I hear a lot is that young carers have problems at school, they are not there, or they have bad grades, or they don't make their homework. School was an escape for me, and still is. So my grades will be great, and I will always be there and make my homework the first break I had. And I was like the top student of my class when it was worst at home. So I think we young carers are so different. You can't just say, for example, that they all do bad at school. And that's very short what I want to talk about today. So thank you.
Thank you, Ingi, for your story. I was hearing you. Why do you think it's important to be aware of younger carers?
I think it's important because it has a lot of impact on young carers. Like I said, it's not only caring for what I didn't have, but also the mental part of it. The always, is my mom safe at home, especially when the memory loss was at the worst. My mom didn't know how anything worked, so I was constantly worrying: is everything going all right? Isn't she isn't she cooking and leaving it on the fire? All those things. I think that's so important to realize, and it has such an impact also in adult life when I hear about others, that I think we should protect kids from that.
Thank you, Ingi, for your personal experience and also for Jessica. I know that now you have to leave for your school's commitments as you are a student. It was very nice to have you and to help us to raise awareness about the reality of younger carers in Europe, but we also will have testimonials from the Portuguese. It would be very nice to put all these youngsters together one day, who knows, and using the new digital technologies. So now, I now present you one of the most relevant persons that I know and worldwide is Professor Saul Becker. Saul Becker is the Andrew and Virginia Root Professor of Social Care Research and Education Practices at the University of Cambridge. He is regarded as the world leader for research and policy on younger cares, having first brought this group of young people to the attention of governments, policy makers, professionals, and the public 30 years ago. So many years ago, so you are very ahead of us. This program of work has continued non-stop and is invited around the world to talk about his research and findings. He's being involved with policymakers, professionals, providers in a number of countries. And I must say that in 2019, he is recognized by Universities UK as one of the nation's lifesavers when 100 individuals or groups based in universities whose work is making a life-changing difference. In 2020, the UK-wide Charity Care Trust appointed him as their first ever ambassador to represent and speak out for unpaid family cares. He is notable in research, and the CV continues. He's a registered social worker, and in his childhood, Saul was a younger carer. Please, Professor Saul Becker, the ground is yours, and very welcome to this webinar.
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you. Bom dia. What I'd like to do now, I must just check firstly that you can see my screen. Bruno, can the screen be seen?
Very short. I don't know if Rui can help us putting a little more. Now it disappeared.
Is the PowerPoint there?
No. Now it is. Yes. Now it is.
Okay. All right. Well, let me start again. Bom dia, everyone. And thank you, Bruno, for the introduction. So what I'd like to do in the next 20 minutes is to, if you like, give you the statistics and the research behind what Jessica and Inga have just talked to you about. They've talked about their experiences as young carers. But what I want to do is now give you the evidence to show you what research has told us about young carers, drawing on 30 years of work that I've been conducting in the UK and in other countries. I don't think I need to define a young carer, because I think we've heard from Jessica and Inga that young carers are children and young people under the age of 18. And they are doing the kind of caring roles and caring tasks that many adults would do for their elderly parents, their disabled children, their partners, their spouses, anyone with a need for care, supervision, or support because of disability, mental ill health, chronic illness, or any other condition that requires someone to need care, support, supervision. We call these people under the age of 18 young carers. They're children. And we also call the people who are 18 to 24 young adult carers. And this is a distinction that many countries now make, and it will become clear when I speak why we distinguish between children under 18 and young adult carers aged 18 to 24. When I started researching 30 years ago, there was no understanding of the lives of young carers. They were hidden, they were secret, they were invisible. There was no research, no official figures, little public or professional awareness or recognition, no law, no rights, no services or support. This was 30 years ago, but in that time, I've been really lucky and very privileged to have conducted 55 research projects over the last 30 years, all of which have focused on the lives of young carers. And some have been small-scale qualitative studies with just a small sample of young carers like Jessica and Inga telling their stories, through to very large surveys of 6,000 young carers so that we can get a profile of their experiences and their needs. And today's presentation to you is to try and capture 30 years of research in 20 minutes so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel and you can see what the research is telling you from other countries. So let me talk about the first research finding, which I think is important. And finding number one is that there are more young carers than most people realize. And there are certainly more young carers than their parents will tell us about, will disclose. So in those countries where there are official figures drawn from, say, the census, those figures underestimate the real number of young carers. And a significant proportion of young carers are very young children. Let me show you the evidence. In the United Kingdom, in the 2001 census and the 2011 census, we asked questions about who were carers in any family. And the census is completed by the adult of the household, the parent, the adult. And in that census, in 2001 and 2011, the adult of the household revealed that there were a number of young carers in the UK. Indeed, in the 2011 census, adults disclosed that there were 177,918 children who were young carers. The 2021 census figures are not yet available, but will be available in the next year. So here you have figures for 2001 and 2011. And in 2011, you can see the total, 177,000 children. And you can see that there were nearly 10,000 children aged 5, 6, and 7. And there were 12,148 children aged 8 and 9. And so you can see here that according to the parents, the adult of the household, we have significant numbers of children who are young carers. And between the 2001 and 2011 census dates, the numbers of young carers, according to the head of the household, increased by 19%. And the largest increase was in the 5, 6, and 7-year-old group, of 83% increase in the number of young carers between those two dates. So according to the census, around 2% of children are young carers. And many, as you can see, are old. But I've always argued that the census is a vehicle which will underestimate the true extent of caring, because it relies on the parents disclosing that their child is a carer. So I worked with the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, in 2010 and 2018 to do a different kind of survey. And instead of asking adults whether their child was a carer, we asked children directly. And we use an instrument in classrooms with children, which is called the MACA, the Multidimensional Assessment of Caring Activities. And it asks children a number of questions about what they do in the home. And if they say never, they never do them, then they're not a young carer. If they do them some of the time or a lot of the time, then they're a young carer. And so we did a different methodology and asked children directly, do you do these roles in your home? In the 2010 survey, of 4,000 pupils that we surveyed in schools, 8% of those children told us that they were involved in personal and intimate care. Now that's 8% of all children self-identifying as young carers. And that equates to 700,000 young carers in the United Kingdom. And that's 4 times more than the census revealed when it asked adults to tell us if they were young carers. In 2018, I repeated the survey with the BBC of a representative sample of 11 to 15-year-olds. And we discovered this time that the figure had risen to 22%. 1 in 5 of all children were having a caregiving role. That equates to 2 million young carers in the United Kingdom. And that's 12 times more than in the census. This issue between how many young carers are there, the answer depends on the methodology that you use to identify and to count them. If you use census figures, then the figure is much lower. In Ireland, they did exactly the same. Their census in 2016 revealed that there were 3,800 carers under the age of 15. But in another survey they did in 2018, instead of asking adults to complete a census, they asked children in schools to complete a form. And here they discovered that there were 13.3% of young people aged 10 to 17 who reported a regular caring role. And that was 67,000 children in Irish schools. And that compares to the 3,800 according to adults, parents in the census. That's 18 times more than the Irish census. So lesson number 1 is, if you want to know the number of young carers in Portugal, don't just use census and big surveys. Ask children directly and ask them in schools or other settings where children frequent. We have now a number of figures for the proportions of children who are carers in a number of countries. And you can see here that in the UK, the official figures are 2 to 3%, but the BBC figures are 8 to 22%, Norway 6%, Australia 4%, Italy 3%, Sweden 7%, etc., etc. And it's highly likely that in most advanced industrialized countries, the figure for the proportion of children who are young carers is going to be around 8 to 10%. Research finding number 2 is that parents, siblings, brothers and sisters, grandparents, and friends need the care of children. And many children are caring for more than one person. Let me give you the evidence. In the BBC survey of 2018 that we did, the people who children were looking after were predominantly mothers. 46% of all the people were mothers. And then 40% were caring for siblings, brothers and sisters with an illness or disability. Then it's fathers and grandparents. And in some countries, these proportions are very different. In Italy, for example, the proportion of children looking after grandparents is much higher than the proportion in other European countries. But what you have here is a profile of who young carers are looking after, and 1 in 3 young carers are caring for more than one person. You can see here the kinds of illness or condition that people have that requires their children to look after them. 1/4 of the parents and other family members have mental health problems. Physical disabilities are 1/3. A long-term illness is 24%. And now increasingly we are seeing learning disabilities, drug misuse, and alcohol problems on the landscape of the needs of people who need care from children. The third research finding relates to the amount of hours that children are having to care and what they actually have to do as carers. So let me return for a moment to our 2011 census. Remember, this is the census of the whole population conducted by the government every 10 years and completed by the adult in the household. And according to those adults, you can see here that 15,728 young carers are providing over 50 hours of care per week. And 19,422 are providing between 20 to 49 hours of care per week. These are effectively full-time jobs, full-time, unpaid, caring jobs. Now, if that wasn't severe enough, you can also see the ages of the children having to perform that amount of caring. And you can see again that 5, 6, and 7-year-olds are providing a significant amount of care, with 1,642 children of the age of 5, 6, and 7 providing over 50 hours of care or more a week. And 8 to 9-year-olds, 1,500 children are providing over 50 hours of care. So even on this underestimate, because it's completed by the adults in the household, tens of thousands of children are caring, and many are caring for very long hours each week, and many are very young age, of primary school age. I've conducted 3 big surveys of young carers over a period between 1995 and 2004. And here it shows the profile of what young carers are having to do: domestic help, general and nursing care, giving injections, giving medicines and prescriptions, emotional care, being there to support a parent who's hearing voices, intimate care, feeding, taking people to the toilet, showering them, sibling care, and other forms. In the 2018 BBC survey, of the 22% of all pupils who are young carers, 10% of those children are involved in personal and intimate care, and 48% are involved in emotional care. And these proportions have gone up since we did the survey in 2010. And we also discovered that 1/3 of all of those young carers were involved in high amounts of caring, and 9% were involved in very high amounts of caring, as measured by the MACA, a psychometric instrument that's now used in 15 countries. The 4th research finding is about children's transitions, their transitions to college, to higher education, to university, and to paid work. And we know from all the research that this is profoundly problematic for young carers. Let me show you the evidence. In 2 studies that I did called Growing Up Caring and Young Adult Carers in the UK, we looked at young carers and their transitions from primary to secondary school, from secondary school to college, to university, to work. And we discovered that many young carers found this very difficult. Most young carers have cared throughout their childhood and will continue to care after the age of 18. That's why we talk about young adult carers aged 18 to 24, because their needs are slightly different from young carers under the age of 18, but they still continue to care. And as children got older, families expected them to do more and more caring. We learned that schools were not supportive, that there was a lack of career advice, that leaving home is problematic, if you have no one else to take over the care from you, or you're going to leave a younger brother or sister to have to provide the care that you were providing. And so basically, the transitions that young carers have are complex and difficult, more difficult than for children who don't care. And in 2013, we did an online survey of 295 young carers aged 14 to 25, because we wanted to look at what was happening to them at different stages of their transition. So some were at school, some were at college or university, some were in work, but some were not in education, employment, or training. NEET. Not in education, employment, or training. They were, if you like, lost in the system. We discovered that for these children, the average age of caring started at 10. The young carers at school loved school. They enjoyed it. They were doing well. Inga said that she liked school, that it was a space of sanctuary. And we found that very much, that young carers want to be at school. Only half were recognised, though, at school. 42% had no recognition or support, and many were bullied. 92% of those children said they'd like to go to university, but 24% said they couldn't afford to go. By the time that they were at college or university, again, most enjoy it. Most say they're doing well, and a third are on a caring course. But again, most don't have any recognition and say they may drop out. And in fact, when you get to university, 29% of young carers do drop out because they can't combine caring and studying. And so we're able to calculate how many days children, young carers lose at school, at college, at university, and at work. And you can see here that at school, a quarter of all days are affected, and 5% of school days are missed because of caring. And by the time you get to the labour market, work, 79 days a year are affected, and 17 days per year are missed. So young carers are having to miss or have their days affected in these different destinations. The fifth and final research finding is about outcomes. And many young carers have reported to us a range of negative outcomes as well as some positive ones. And mental health problems are reported in 45% of a recent survey that we did. More recently, we've been involved in a 6-country European study that's looked at the mental health of young carers aged 15 to 17. And we discovered of the 2,099 adolescent young carers aged 15 to 17 that they were looking after parents with physical disabilities, mental illness, cognitive impairments, and addiction, and friends as well who have mental health problems. So many young carers are looking after people, family and friends with mental health difficulties. And this has definitely increased. But we also know that many young carers report their own mental health problems. So 36% of the young carers in our Me-We survey said that their own mental health had deteriorated. And this ranged greatly across the different countries. 19% said their school performance had been negatively affected. And a number now are saying that they have thought about hurting themselves and hurting others. So what do we know? We know that children become carers because of a cluster of different reasons: culture, family, love, duty, respect, because there's no alternatives, because of the nature of the illness or disability. We know that many children, all children, need to care about family members. They need to care about people around them. They need to have low levels of caring and responsibility. That is what we need from all children. But as children's caregiving roles become more complex and increase in amount, time, sophistication, intimacy, those children move from caring about to taking care of other people. So that finally, they're not caring about anymore, they're caring for. And those are the young carers that we're talking about, the Jessicas, the Ingas, the hundreds of thousands, millions of young carers across Europe. So what is our role? What's our purpose today? Why are we meeting today? Our purpose is to move children from a position of vulnerability, providing excessive care that's inappropriate for their age, that restricts their education and reduces their life chances, to help them move to a position of growth, to thrive, to achieve, to enjoy, to be supported, to flourish as children and young people. Around the world, there are a number of countries which have started the journey to support young carers. This is a classification of those countries that are already on that journey, showing the different levels that they're at in terms of their policy, their law, their governments, and their responses. And we look forward to welcoming Portugal to that network, that band of countries that takes the issue of young carers seriously and says enough is enough, we will do more. So to move forward, we need greater awareness of young carers by governments, policymakers and professionals. We need to remember that we can make a difference to the lives of young carers through early intervention so that we can stop children's caregiving roles becoming institutionalized and normalized within their families. We can improve the outcomes that young carers have at school, their mental health, their well-being, and their labour market participation if we support them. We can reduce their caregiving roles if we support the family as a whole. Identification and assessments of young carers are absolutely critical so that we can tailor and target appropriate interventions to support them. Supporting young carers is not a cost, it's an investment. It's an investment that will pay dividends by ensuring that young carers, children and young people who have to take on a caregiving role will have an equal opportunity to participate and to thrive like every other child. I hope very much that Portugal, like other countries, will raise to this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Solbecker, for your lovely presentation. It was really nice to hear the picture. There are figures here that I didn't realize the magnitude of this problem, and I've been studying this for a long while. Thank you for sharing this with us. And the truth is that we are 30 years ago, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel, as you say very well. We have just to learn with the best practices. And I hope seriously to put Portugal in that categorization towards the investment in younger cares. Thank you, Saul.
Thank you.
Next presentation is made by Nicola Bell, and she's from the Cares Trust, UK, Scotland, and she'll speak about a Scotland approach. And the Cares Trust is a charitable institution that works with cares, and it is particularly with young cares. The floor is yours, Nicola. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'll just share my screen just now so I can show my presentation. Bear with me. Okay. And hopefully everyone can see that okay. So hi, my name is Nicola Bell and I am the Youth Engagement Officer at Carers Trust Scotland. Today I'll be talking to you about some of the legislation and support within Scotland for young carers, and also specifically the work that we do at Carers Trust. So to begin, I thought I'd just share with you Carers Trust's definition of who unpaid carers are. So anyone who provides unpaid care for a friend or family member who, due to illness, frailty, disability, a mental health problem, or an addiction, cannot cope without their support. And as Professor Solbecker said, we define a young carer as anyone under the age of 18 or 18 and still at school who's providing this care. So the primary law that affects carers in Scotland is called the Carers Scotland Act, and this was implemented from April 2018. And it makes it simpler for carers to be identified as needing support with their caring role. Within the Act, there are carer assessments known as adult carer support plans for adults and young carer statements for young carers under the age of 18. Both focus on how the caring role is affecting the person rather than the number of hours spent caring. So within the Carers Scotland Act, it specifies that there must be certain things included in these young carer statements, such as any emergency and future planning for young carers, the carers' personal outcomes, how much care they are willing and able to provide, and whether any support could include a break from caring. Young carer statements in Scotland vary across the 32 different local authorities. And as we've heard from all the speakers today, we still have a lot to do, as many young carers remain under the radar and they're not aware of their right to a young carer statement in Scotland. If you're interested in looking at the different young carer statements that have been created, you can head over to carers.org and look through our digital hub to see these examples. But regardless of whether in fact the carer is identified as having any support needs, they should be able to access preventative information and advice by their local authority, and that is also set out in the Carers Scotland Act. So I wanted to give you some examples of specific support for young carers in Scotland. The first one being the non-cash entitlement for young carers by Young Scot. Young Scot are a national information organisation for young people of Scotland, and they are supported by the Scottish Government. They offer what's called a Young Carers package, and that's available for young carers aged 11 to 18 in Scotland. It's a package of treats, of vouchers, discounts, and recently, due to the pandemic, the package has been adapted to specifically include digital offers, such as vouchers for Netflix, Amazon, and Spotify. The aim of this package is really just to give young carers a chance to do things for themselves and take a break in something that they enjoy. Another support for young carers in Scotland is the Young Carer Grant, which went live in October 2019. This is a yearly payment of over £300 for young carers aged 16 to 18 who live in Scotland. And these young carers who are eligible can spend this on what they want, and they can be still at school, they could be in further or higher education, or they could be employed or unemployed, and that is available for young carers. So I thought I would just give you a quick introduction about Carers Trust and Carers Trust Scotland before talking to you about some of the national projects we deliver to support young carers and young adult carers. So just quickly, Carers Trust is a major charity for, with and about carers. We are one of the largest providers of comprehensive unpaid support services in the UK, and we work to improve the support, services and recognition for anyone living with the challenges of unpaid caring. We do this with a UK-wide network of quality assured independent partners and through the provision of grants. We also do it through replacement care and in the community with information, advice, emotional support, hands-on practical help and access to much needed break. It's our vision that unpaid carers count and that they can access the help they need to live their lives. Carers Trust works with almost 130 network partners across the UK, supporting over 500,000 unpaid carers. Carers Trust Scotland then is part of Carers Trust, and we are one of 7 national care organisations in Scotland. We currently have 17 network partners in Scotland, and we work with 46 young carers services through the Scottish Young Carers Services Alliance. This is an umbrella organisation for the young carer services in Scotland, and Carers Trust Scotland coordinate this alliance. It provides a network for young carer services to come together to share best practice, and it has been really great to see this network come together more online during the past 18 months. So our work in Carers Trust Scotland gives us a reach of at least 30,000 unpaid adult carers and 2,500 young carers from across Scotland. And some of the figures that we've heard about today, it's clear that there still is a lot that needs to be done in Scotland to support young carers that are hidden. So our vision at Carers Trust is to ensure that all unpaid carers can access the help they need to live their lives. And we do this by raising awareness of the information and support that's available to unpaid carers, empowering unpaid carers to ask for help and campaign for their rights. Carers Trust Scotland influence policy and ensure that unpaid carer issues are a priority at all levels in society. And Carers Trust Scotland work with and through the network of members to ensure that they can campaign and support and influence the unpaid carers agenda. So I thought I would talk to you a little bit about some of our national projects at Carers Trust Scotland. And the first one, and one that's very close to my heart, is the Scottish Young Carers Festival. As Youth Engagement Officer, I lead in the delivery of this festival. So our festival is an annual residential event where over 400 young carers from across Scotland can come together. It's really a weekend away for young carers to have a break from their caring role, to have lots of fun, and to meet other young carers with similar situations and meet new friends and really get that peer support. Another really important element of our Young Carers Festival is consultation. So at the 3-day residential, we will hold consultation spaces for young carers to share their views and their experiences as a young carer. We also have invited decision makers that come along to our festival, and they come and they listen to what young people have to say, and they really take that on board. We gather all this consultation and we share it in a final report to Scottish Government at the end of the year. But also this consultation really informs our work at Carers Trust Scotland and what our priorities are for the years ahead. So each year we have a group of young carers known as the media ambassadors. There's normally about 10 of them, and they take part in filmmaking training with media education. The purpose of this project is for young carers to create a film that they want to create. So it's a film about young carers by young carers, and then we share that, share those final films with as many people as we possibly can to raise awareness of what these young people have said are important to them. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to show you, and I'll just stop sharing my screen just now. I wanted to show you one of the films that the group made in 2019, and it's a really nice way for you to see the festival.
The media team have been filming at the festival so that we can take parts of information and get the voices of the kids that are here to take back to the Carers Parliament so that everybody else can see what's going on and how this is benefiting people here.
Has this project inspired you to do something new?
Well, this was something new for me. It was kind of something outside of my comfort zone, outside the box for me.
So today we went around filming people and asking them questions about the festival.
I've been getting some shots and B-roll, so that's just basically some cutaway shots that we can put in.
There was speed dating with members of Parliament, and afterwards we asked some of the young people that attended if they'd answer some questions and tell us how helpful that was for them.
I learned how to use a camera and do all the audio stuff. From the interview skills, I've gained a lot of confidence.
The film that I'm making is to do with the mental health of a young carer, so it involves things like isolation and how quickly a young carer can grow up a bit more and like bits they miss out. What I would like to like be brought up from the film is like the awareness about what sort of goes through a young carer's mind when they feel like really isolated about things, and when they feel like they don't have people they can go and speak to because of how isolated they actually are.
I was part of the media team at the festival 2 years ago, and what we did then is we made podcasts to raise awareness about being a young carer. Being at the festival is really good because it gives you like time to be away from things, and it also brings attention to young carers. A lot of people come to look at it.
So at last year's festival we met Graham Day. It really encouraged me to join the media team so that more opportunities could arise and that I could attend more things so that I could get my voice heard and that other people can have their voice heard too.
A lot of people are afraid to be able to say I'm a young carer just because in case there's like a stigma around it. Nobody wants to be stereotyped, so I really think it's really important to make sure that everybody has more awareness and knows what it's like to be a young carer.
So that was our media ambassadors in 2019, and I just thought that was something nice to show from the young people themselves about how important the festival is to them. And just to say that at Carers Trust Scotland, we always speak with young carers every year about what they would like to see, so that we are creating an event for them that they want. And that includes the online festivals that we ran during the pandemic. So I'm just going to share my screen for a couple of last slides. Let me see if this works okay. Okay, as I said, consultation really informs our work, and one of the biggest things and biggest issues that comes out of our consultation each year is the impact, the issues that young carers experience at schools and the lack of support that they receive. So in response to this, Scottish Government funded an education officer role at Carers Trust Scotland, and my colleague Kelly delivers free young carer awareness training to all education staff to ensure that school staff have the appropriate skills to support young carers in their schools. So during 2019 to 2020, we delivered training to over 500 probationer and student teachers. Extensive survey work by Young Carer Services and by Carers Trust show that around 1 in 5 children in class will have a caring role. And the 2019 pupil census in Scotland recorded 3,800 young carers in publicly funded primary and secondary schools. Now, the Scottish Government recognise that there are at least 29,000 young carers in Scotland, so clearly so much more work needs to be done to support these young carers in their schools. Another project that we run is supporting the transitions for student carers. So in 2020, we undertook research into the experiences of student carers and the barriers that they have in accessing further and higher education. And as Sol mentioned, for young adult carers who are transitioning from school into colleges and universities, there are real barriers and challenges for these young people to complete this. So Carers Trust Scotland offer our Going Higher and Going Further for Student Carer Recognition Awards. And these awards aim to make it easier for Scotland's colleges and universities to identify, support and report on student carers and really recognise good practice across the country. And then finally, I just wanted to give a little bit of information on a current project that we are working on with Erasmus Plus funded, together a whole family approach for young carers. So this project aims to raise awareness of young carers and to do more to support them and their families and really adopt that holistic whole family approach. The project has involved doing some desk-based research to find out what resources already exist, and we found that there was a bit of a gap there in terms of resources to support and facilitate that open dialogue about the impact that caring roles can have on the family. So this year we launched conversation cards for young carers and family members. We launched a practitioner toolkit to support practitioners in adopting that whole family approach. And we also piloted a whole family workshop to engage families and young carers in interactive activities and to facilitate that open dialogue. So that's been a really exciting project, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes as we come to the end in March 2022. Finally, I just wanted to end on a quote from one of the parents that took part in our pilot workshop. I found it very emotional because for me it showed how vulnerable and emotional the young carers really are. Jack has also started conversations about a few of the things we have discussed and told me that he loves our dynamic. I just want to say a huge thank you and let you know this workshop has been extremely beneficial for our family. So again, really exciting to see where this can go, and we're hoping to create an e-learning module for practitioners so they can then take this workshop on board within their own local carer service. Thank you so much for listening to me today. That was so much information. So here are my contact details if you want to get in touch or check out carers.org for more information. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you very much. It's really nice to see how is the level of expertise and maturity in relation to support younger carers. And I must say I'm a Scottish ambassador. In 2016, we were invited to be in the Cares Parliament, and you were discussing the Care Scotland Act, and most of the measures that you spoke there, we integrated in a document that was based to construct the law 100/2019, that is the law that recognizes informal cares in Portugal. So identification, the importance of evaluation of the needs, the importance of integrated care, the importance of conciliation care with labor responsibilities. A lot of things were inspired by the Scottish model. And I was deeply attached to the way they work and the easy that is to speak with a politician in Scotland. It's very close. They are very near to support the people. And we had the chance to be with also your Ministry of Health, and it was really nice experience. And also in Portugal, we have in Gaia this kind of approach of proximity, but is something that I would like to highlight also in your country. Thank you, Nicola. It was a very nice presentation. Next, we will hear and welcome Tamara and Nink de Jong from Willems. Willems is primarily founded by the Deutsche government, and it's the National Center of Expertise for Long-Term Care in the Netherlands. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bruno. I will share my presentation first on the big screen. Yes. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to this presentation. And thank you, everyone, for giving such a wonderful introduction on the topic of young carers. With a big thanks to Inga, Jessica, Sol, and also the wonderful presentation of Nicola. Me and my colleague Tamara will continue to tell you something about the work we are doing in the Netherlands. First, I do a short introduction on myself. I'm Nienke de Jong, and I work as a researcher for Willems. And my colleague Tamara is also a senior researcher at Willems, and she will take over the presentation halfway. So the next 15 minutes, I will tell you something about supporting young carers in the Netherlands, and then specifically by means of the co-design training and mobile application that we developed during the MIWI project. So shortly, some numbers. As Sol already mentioned in his presentation this morning, these numbers are also probably an underestimation of the real numbers. However, these are the numbers we're working with currently, as our National Institute for Social Research has found these, and these are that approximately 6 to 8% of the 13 to 17 years old are involved in some form of care. And in numbers, this approaches 450,000 youngsters under the age of 18. So then I will tell you something about the MIWI project, which is established to strengthen the resilience of adolescent young carers in the transition to adulthood. And MIWI stands for promoting mental health and well-being among young carers in Europe. And it is a Horizon 2020 funded project, which started in January 2018, and it just finished in June 2021. And 6 countries participated in the project, as you can see on the slide, which are Slovenia, Italy, Switzerland, UK, and also Eurocarers was part, and Sweden, and Linnaeus University from Sweden coordinated the project. So I will continue to tell you something about the process of creation of a resilience-based training and mobile application. And in this, I will mainly focus on the country-specific results of the Netherlands. So during the MIWI project, we applied a co-design approach, which means that we worked closely together as researchers together with young carers and professionals in the development of the intervention. And the co-design meetings with professionals and young carers we called blended learning networks. And we met every month in Utrecht, which is in the center of the Netherlands. We always met around dinner time, so that's why you can see the pizza on the slide. We always ate pizza together. And during the year that we collaborated, that the group was evolved, and was also a social and fun gathering. And you can also see here Inge on the slide, as she was also part of our group. And then I will tell you something about what we did together. So already during our first session together, the wishes for a mobile application came across. So during this session, we were drawing the mobile app. So young carers and professionals were asked to draw what they should think the app should look like. And there were no rules, so they could draw anything they like. And then we discussed what should be in there. And after several sessions, we came up with a list of 7 themes which should be included in the app. And these are listed here, and they are support from other young carers, information on how to deal with emergency situations, more awareness about young carers, information about the illnesses and caring, frequently asked questions of other young carers, support with caring, and information about support for young carers themselves. Beside the teams, we also discussed a lot about the functions which should be in the app, and we had discussions between, we came up with a large list of functions that would be nice to have in the app, and then we made the distinction which really need to be in the app. And what was striking, that we had several discussions on points that professionals had a different view on than the young carers, so it was good to have them both in the room. For instance, a discussion we had about the emergency button, where professionals were talking about an emergency for young carers themselves, for instance, like suicidal thoughts, whereas young carers were thinking about an emergency for their ill relative or brothers or sisters, and how they could act fast. So that was one of the points that was very good to have the conversation together in dialogue. So, and besides the MIWI app, psychological intervention has been developed, and this training is built on the DNA-V model, which is designed by Hayes and Cagliarocci in 2015. And the DNAV model is based on acceptance and commitment therapy, which is designed to help adolescents to manage difficult emotions and find solutions to everyday problems. And the intervention aims to promote growth, even in difficult situations. And it focuses on developing a strong sense of self and gives adolescents the confidence they need to make the transition to adulthood. And the D stands for discoverer, the N for noticer, the A for advisor, and the V for values. So that is the MIWI model, the complete MIWI model we find in these three elements. So as our blended learning network showed, that supporting young carers should start with increasing the awareness at schools, and then followed by identification of young carers. And then the training provides the next step, which is increasing the resilience of young carers. And to study the effectiveness of this MIWI program and mobile app, a mixed methods RCT was conducted. And my colleague Tamara will tell you something more about this.
Yes, thank you very much, Nienke, for introducing the MIWI program and the MIWI model, of course. I will briefly tell you something about the randomized control trial we conducted in the Netherlands and the other countries of the MIWI project. But similar to Nienke, I will also focus on the Dutch results. As you see here on the slide, we did collect data both in schools and care support centers. We started out by training people from schools, so teachers from schools and supporters from care support centers, so that they could provide the MIWI resilience training. And we trained in total 30 people to give the training, but unfortunately due to COVID, only 8 locations started with the program. You see it on the map of the Netherlands on the right side of the slide. The pink squares and circles are the schools, and the green ones are the green ones are the schools, and the other ones are the care support centers. And the squares show which locations actually started providing the training to the young carers. So 8 in total locations participated. As I said, this is mainly due to COVID that we were just starting our data collection, and then the pandemic broke out, so everybody was at home and everything had to be reorganized into online training instead of a blended form. But we were lucky to still have 8 training groups in the research. And we did online questionnaires for all the participating young carers before, after, and 3 months after the training for the effect study, the RCT. And besides that, we also conducted a process evaluation to see how the youngsters valued the training and also what the trainers thought of the training. Next slide, please, Nienke. Well, the results, I will focus mainly on the qualitative results, as the quantitative results are somewhat still work in progress, but the qualitative results show that the young carers themselves, they were really happy about the increased awareness for young carers in the schools, and that they were acknowledged as carers really helped them, and the openness in the training was valued. Furthermore, they really enjoyed the peer support, and I think that also relates to what Inge or Jessica said earlier on about being able to connect to other young carers. That really helps, that they know what you're going through, what you're experiencing. Furthermore, the qualitative data, it was input from both focus groups and from the questionnaires, by the way. But the trainers, they really enjoyed being able to provide the training online, and that's of course also influenced by COVID, but we were able to continue nonetheless. The schools were closed down in the Netherlands, everybody was at home, but still the trainers could help the young carers, and they really valued that. And the connection between professionals, so schools getting in touch with care support centers and the other way around, was also really valued, that this project helped to get that on the road. And both trainers and young carers mentioned the MeWe model itself, so the DNAV training, the resilience part, and combined with the app as well, although the app had some technical issues sometimes. But overall, the model and the theoretical basis of the model was really valued very much. Well, the quantitative results, so really the experimental part, shows no significant improvement in resilience in young carers in the Netherlands. But as you saw on the previous slide, we only had 8 locations. So the total number of people participating in training was quite low. And it might very well be that we need more young carers to be able to show an effect. Luckily, there were other countries participating in the project, but the cross-country comparison is still a work in progress. And later this year, the results are expected. So keep an eye out for those on social media and the website. And as you see on the bottom of the slide, there's a quote from one of the young carers, which we feel really represents what the training was about and how it was perceived. The training made me aware of my own thoughts and my own feelings. It has supported me in understanding myself and everything that happens in my head. Well, no better way to summarize it than this young carer did, I think. Next slide, please, Nienke. Based on our studies and the blended learning networks that Nienke talked about and the whole project, we have some recommendations that maybe are worthwhile for your work in Portugal. First of all, try to increase the awareness of young carers, both amongst themselves, but also amongst others. So maybe schools are also a good way to find them and to increase awareness. Beware of the privacy of young carers and make sure that they feel safe during trainings, but also during other events that you might organize. Try to lower the threshold for participation by making sure it fits their schedule, because they have a lot going on. They have to go to school, they have to take care of somebody, they try to have a social life, they're preparing to go to college sometimes. It should fit their needs and their schedule, so be aware of that. And as I said, the results are still a work in progress, but keep an eye on the project website of MeWe. It's mewe.eu. You see it on the bottom of the slide, and more shall be known in the future about this. And next slide, please, Nienke. Well, as now the project is finished, we are trying to make sure that the training is still kept alive, so to say, in the Netherlands. We are submitting a description of the training to a database of effective interventions we have here, so that the training will get a quality label, so to say, and we can further increase the visibility of the training. And Vilans, the National Center of Expertise in Long-Term Care, will keep offering train-the-trainer sessions so that care support centers and schools can keep providing the training, and more young carers are helped with this training, hopefully in the future. Next slide, please. And now I see I'm almost out of time, but I briefly want to address some other initiatives in the Netherlands for young carers, because I think some of them are very impressive. We are not directly involved in all of these, but we really support that these things are going on. First of all, we have JMZ Pro. It's a national network of professionals supporting young carers, and they have a sounding board group that consists out of young carers and advises them. So it's nothing about the young carers without the young carers. They actually practice what they preach. They also have a lab in which they work on projects relating to young carers. Each year we have a national week of young carers in June, and on the right side you see a poster that was used this year in the Dutch National Week for Young Carers, and it says, my friends are missing me during sports activities, but you cannot miss me. It's a hashtag niet te missen. So you cannot miss me. You have to be aware that I'm here. And on the bottom of the poster it says 25% of the youngsters grow up worrying about someone. So it's good that national attention is provided to this important issue. Another example is the municipality of The Hague. They have ambassador young carers who try to help other young carers. And finally, the platform Vanzelfsprekend is needless to say. It makes sense. It's from the city of Den Bosch, and that also is an initiative where young carers are helped and supported, also to help and support other young carers. So the key message here is to involve them themselves, I think. That's it for now. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me or Nienke.
Thank you. It was a lovely presentation. It was really nice to see how countries like UK and also Netherlands are so well developed in terms of support to younger carers, and how technology really can create impact in these youngsters. And I must say that I was very inspired by the National Week of Younger Carers and how proactively you are in the Netherlands. Thank you so much for your presentation. And now I will be glad to share our experience and what we are be doing in Portugal. So I will share my screen with you. I hope now you can see the presentation. No? I think no. So I will stop. Brilliant. Rui, we are seeing in the Anna screen. Are you seeing also? Yes. Could you put the? We'll start now. Sorry for this incident, but we'll share to you what we are being developing in Portugal. Everything started in 2017 when we were invited by Linnaeus University to do an Erasmus Plus project where we would develop educational innovative methodologies to promote social inclusion of younger carers. This was a reality very new in Portugal, and no one had the opportunity to work this as we did. And raising awareness that there were no kind of support, we decided to apply for a Portugal Social Innovation Project, and in this we support 100 cares with the City Council of Gaia and other stakeholders. The objective of this project, Younger Cares, is to give responses to younger carers in different areas. We are speaking about health, education, youth, and also try to minimize the risk that can compromise their physical and mental health, poverty, social exclusion, and also can create negative impact in their development and quality of life. Let's share one of the testimonial of informal care in Portugal, a younger care, that speaks about the difficulty to be, what is to be young care about.
Olá, chamo-me Beatriz, tenho 15 anos e sou uma jovem cuidadora. Hoje a minha mãe tem problemas de saúde. Quando ela fica mal, sou eu que tenho de ajudar na casa e ajudar a cuidar dela. Na escola, em outubro de 2020, eu fui abordada por este projeto com um vídeo de uma menina da minha faixa etária a cuidar da mãe doente. Eu na altura fiquei sensibilizada, pois era uma situação semelhante à minha e não fazia ideia de que era considerada uma jovem cuidadora.
In terms of the regions where we started this project, it started in the Escola Secundária Dr. Joaquim Gomes Ferreira Alves, and then we spread to more 7 schools. And our main objective was to develop responses to these younger carers in areas such as health and mental health and education and youth. And for these, we supported the students with classes in their houses. We gave them psychological support and peer support, and we promoted directly with cooperation of Youth Institute of Portugal some leisure activities. From 3,000 students that were scanned, only 38 are now being impacted by our project. Most of the cases, we have children and young people that care with brothers that have any kind of disability. Some are family monoparental that have any kind of severe disease, oncological disease, dementia disease, and others, they pay care to the grandfathers. We have examples of the disabilities promoted by strokes or oncological disease. Let's see the video too.
Olá, eu sou a Marta, sou uma jovem cuidadora porque a minha irmã tem uma mutação genética de CDKL5 e necessita de constantes cuidados de higiene, vigilância, alimentação, etc. No meu caso, eu nasci nesta situação toda e fez com que a minha infância fosse um bocado fora do normal e acabei por crescer um bocado rápido mais. E a minha vida é bastante condicionada pela minha irmã e o facto de ela ter esta doença que ela tem faz com que eu acho que eu e no geral a minha família ponhamos os nossos problemas um bocado de parte e não nos demos muita atenção, porque obviamente o dela é muito mais problemático e às vezes é um bocado duro. E também é um bocado desgastante ser jovem cuidadora porque não acabamos por não ter muito tempo para nós e a doença da minha irmã em geral é bastante desgastante e acho que isso é um resumo.
So we have here a testimonial of a Portuguese younger carer and speaks about transition that we spoke about with Saul Becker for caring for, and the consequences that caregiving tasks can have in their lives. In our approach to the project, we give a lot of support in terms of psychological. Here they are with our psychologist, where we promoted a lot of competencies, managing time, emotional management, mindfulness, self-concept, self-esteem, communication, assertiveness. And in terms of psychotherapy, the most common problematics are anxiety and panic disorders, mutilations, suicidal attempts, depression, stress, trauma. And what we do is to put these young carers in the center of the system and try to support them basically, weekly basically, or every 2 weeks. Let's see the video 3 and 4.
Acho que isso é um resumo. Integrar este projeto. No início, para ser honesto, eu achava que não tinha assim nada em si para mudar, mas estou errada. Este projeto deu-me bastante ajuda psicológica que eu estava a precisar. Deu-me a conhecer pessoas novas e o facto de eu ter amadurecido um bocado depressa demais faz com que eu às vezes tenha alguma dificuldade em identificar-me com a maior parte das pessoas da minha idade e através do projeto conheci pessoas com quem eu consigo facilmente identificar-me e o facto de eu ter conhecido pessoas novas fez com que eu superasse aquele medo de conhecer pessoas em si e também me ajudou a ser capaz de falar do problema da minha irmã, porque é algo um bocado difícil de eu falar, porque é um assunto assim um bocado sensível e ajudou-me nesse aspecto.
Diferentes também ajudou-me a ver as coisas um bocado melhores. Só tenho a agradecer a estas pessoas incríveis que me ajudaram a ultrapassar uma, digamos, das piores fases.
So we have here testimonials of informal younger cares, and in our approach to the support to younger cares, we developed visits to their houses, and here we established the identification of the needs of these younger cares, put them in the middle of our system, and try to develop tailored approaches. We did what is called a systematic intervention, and we implement and monitorize programs of well-being every week. Here is one example of our intervention with our school nurse, Annabella, where she does sensibilization campaign, literacy, health literacy. She we were passing by the COVID, so we had to shape our way to contact the families and younger cares. So we use Zooms and digital platforms in order to do this digital literacy. And there are some examples: learning how to manage epilepsy attack, learn how if you need to do surgery, what we can do, and what we can do to manage an ostomy. Of course, this is an integrated approach, and we had also interventions in social care. There are a lot of references made to the Commission for Protection of Children, and we had also the need to have social requests, and we helped them getting their many helps for those who had difficulties, for example, buying medication and buying glasses. In terms of our intervention into the community, we realized that we did a lot of meetings with the school, with professors. We discussed the cases, we identified the young cares. We had frequently conversations with the school psychologists, and also we integrated the dean of the schools as well the parents associations. We, in order to communicate better with younger cares, used the digital networks. We created a Facebook and Instagram, and this was one of the most impactful activities that we had. We created 1 week vacations and leisure activities where they had opportunity to have vacations that they had never done. They did surf, they did escalate, they had military exercises, they did swimming pools, and it was a really nice experience. We integrated with these activities psychodynamics, where we work also the psychological well-being. And of course, this wouldn't be possible without the strong cooperation of Youth Portuguese Institute. These are some examples of testimonials of young carers that we had one of the most incredible testimonials saying, for example, if it was not these vacations, we hadn't had opportunity to get out of our house, get out of our cubicle. It was a great chance to be with the other persons with the same problems, with other students, experience that they take for the rest of their life, and the bonds that they have created were so strong. They still communicate with each other, and it's also very nice to see the mothers also saying that is so good to have their heart full, to see their happiness in their eyes. So let's see video 5.
Todo este carinho, trabalho e amizade, eu decidi escrever este obrigado por tudo. Obrigado aos meus colegas que participaram no projeto, obrigado às pessoas que estavam no projeto e principalmente às pessoas que fizeram com que este projeto pudesse realizar. Obrigada.
So this is younger care. She's saying thank you. Of course, this thank you is for all that for all people that allow that this be a reality. We are speaking not only Cuidadores Portugal and the team, Ana, Annabella, and Joanna, but also the City Council, the youth, the social, and the health city councillors that allowed that this be a reality, as well the strong commitment of the Youth Portuguese Institute, North Directorate, as well the Commission for Protection of the Rights, Promotion of the Rights and Protection of the Children and the Youth. Let's see more 2 examples. Next image,
Para melhor, e fico feliz por incentivar outros jovens a participar neste projeto incrível. Obrigada por tudo.
Que seja possível, porque realmente foi incrível. Eu nem tenho palavras para descrever como é que foi, porque eu gostei tanto e eu fiz tantos amigos e cá fora desse projeto ainda continuamos a manter contacto todos. E eu acho que seria uma boa ideia voltar a fazer o projeto, pelo menos ano que vem. Se calhar com o mesmo grupo, porque seria uma forma de relembrar os nossos bons momentos. E até...
Thank you. This was our presentation, what we are doing in Portugal. And I apologize for the international people that are assisting our communication, as well our speakers, international speakers. But backing home and backing to our international speakers, let's start our question and answers time. So, I don't know if Jessica are you there also with us, or yes? Nice. Jessica, I would like to ask you, what type of support you have in Sweden, and what type of positive outcomes you have experienced from the time being a younger care? Can you share with us, please?
Yeah, so first of all, can you hear me?
Yes, now.
So the sound is great. Yeah. I would say when it comes to the first question, I would say that we have our government, we have these different authorities working with this in several different ways, but we have more of an overall and general support system when it comes to carers, no matter what type of age group you're in. But a really good example is the MeWe project. We have been working with this in Sweden as well, and I've been traveling around the world, I would say, the country, and visiting schools and talking to these pupils about all this stuff. So, but the thing is that Our problem, I must say, is that it differs from where you live in Sweden. It depends on what region you're in, and that's not supposed to be that way, I would say. So we have problems still. We have good examples, but we can be better and do better with this. And when it comes to the next question, I must say different personality traits, such as being independent and inclusive and empathetic, because these traits are so attractive to, I mean, when you apply for jobs and during job interviews and so on. And all this really gives you a perspective on life, and you get a kind of a helicopter perspective on the society. So you get an insight that you can use when you're an adult. And finally, I must say, it's a kind of a preparatory training for adulthood, good and bad. So yeah, that's what I must say.
Thank you, Jessica, for your sharing. The time is running, and I think I will have time to ask very shortly one or two more questions. Thank you, Jessica, for your lovely presentation and your feedback and the answers. I would like to ask to Nicola Bell. Are you there, Nicola? Maybe she has an appointment. Professor Saul Becker? Nicola, hi.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. I'm just asking, I'm curious, what have been younger care's experience during the pandemic? You, in your presentation, focused the COVID. Does the COVID did a lot of damage for younger cares? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts about that?
Yeah, Carers Trust Scotland actually undertook research into the impact of COVID-19 on young carers and their young carer workers, and the results were really upsetting. I mean, young carers have had a lot of their caring role for a lot of them has intensified. They've not been able to get the break and the respite that they would often get. Young people were having to possibly care for someone who was shielding and take part in online learning. We found digital exclusion to be a real issue, and we found young carer services in local communities to be a total lifeline for these young people. And the workers in those services had increased workload. They were having to provide a lot more emotional support to young carers. So a lot of real issues to come out of the pandemic, and I hope that there's more focus and emphasis on providing respite and breaks for young carers, having come out of a really difficult 18 months and the impact that's had on their mental health as well.
You are in a high level experience and maturity in relation to support to younger carers in your country.
Yeah.
Is anything more to do? What's our next steps? What is needed for it?
Well, I think in terms of the pandemic, some of the recommendations out of that report were how do we continue to support young carer services to take on. They took on so much work, and that's not realistic. So there needs to be greater communication between commissioning bodies and the carer services about what is realistic. And also we need to look at organisational plans and structures in place. It might be that a blended model is needed now going forward in terms of online support for young carers. We found that was really helpful for rural and island young carers. So up north of Scotland, a lot of young carers were accessing the support more because it was on Zoom and Teams, and it might be that going forward that's something that we need to think about to ensure that we have face-to-face support, but we also have online support for young people who would prefer that.
Very interesting. Now I would like to ask you, Saul Becker, if it's possible, Professor Saul.
I'm still here.
Hi. the time is short, but we'll fix it. Professor Becker, what needs to happen in Portugal for us to be able to move forward? We see that countries like Scotland also have a lot of things to do, not only Portugal, but as a country, in order to recognize and support even younger carers here in Portugal.
Thanks, Bruno. Good question. So firstly, you need some research evidence. So no country has moved forward unless it's got some research evidence. Secondly, you need some individuals who care, people like yourself and others that you've mentioned today, who will stay for the long haul, who will do research, who will work on young carers issues for a number of years, so that there is consistency. You need a pioneer service provider, someone or some organization that is going to develop some services like you described in Portugal, but who is going to develop some of those kind of services so that young carers will have something to come to, something that they want to use to support them. You need government action at national government and municipality level, that government officials and politicians say, we will do something about young carers. You need to learn, fifthly, from cross-national and other countries. So, for example, one of the questions that's always asked is, how many young carers are there in Portugal? What do you expect? So I'll tell you. Do you want to know the answer, Bruno?
Yes, please.
Okay, so if you are like other countries, like the Netherlands, and it's 8% of all children, that will mean you have 155,000 young carers. If it's 10%, which is like other European countries, it's 193,000 young carers. And if you have 20%, like in the United Kingdom, it's just under 400,000 young carers. So you have a minimum number of 155,000, and it could go up to 380,000, depending. Best way to do that is to do the surveys that we've described. But in the United States, they spent years trying to work out that number and didn't do anything else. And then they found that the number that they found through years of research was the number I suggested to them years earlier. The other thing that you need to do is you need to get public opinion to be on your side. So this needs the media and other organizations to tell the stories of individual young carers and to give the statistics about why it's widespread. And finally, nothing for young carers without young carers. They have to be at the heart of everything that we do, everything that we design, everything that we create for them. That's what you need to do in Portugal.
Not easy task, but no. Fortunately, we have you as an external spirit in our ecosystem that we are trying to create, and so many thanks for your kindness to help us to find a way to support these younger carers. Indeed, the numbers are very important. They raise awareness, and also there is no project that has ACID if it not contemplates the younger carers in their co-creation system, as did in the MUI project. So many thanks, Professor Solbecker, and we keep contact, I hope.
Absolutely.
So we have seen now a lot of realities in Portugal, in Scotland, in Sweden, in the Netherlands. And what we are doing in Portugal is exactly this, is try to embrace this commitment involving other stakeholders, private and public, personal expertise, international expertise, in order to co-create solutions. And we started with City Council of Gaia, with the three councillors, health, social, and education. But now it's time to spread and to strengthen this ecosystem in the region. And this is why we have two strong national institutes and commission that really support us. We will pass the message of the Portuguese Institute of Youth and Sport, and we are very grateful for Dr. Vitor Dias for all the support, and also Alcídio, and is was because them that we had this vacations period, these leisure activities, that if it was not them, it wouldn't be possible to these children and youngsters to have these vacations. And also we'll pass the message of Dr. Rosário Fermahaus from the National Commission for the Promotion of the Rights and Protection of Children and Youth. Here we want to defend the right of the children to the time they have and they should have. And as Professor Saul said, we have to act as a primary system where we can deliberate, think about the vulnerability and the risk and intervene in a more proactively way. So the next videos are messages from the directors of the Portuguese Institute of Youth, as well the National Commission of Promotion of the Rights and Protection of Children and Youth.
Informal em Portugal não é uma realidade nova, é uma realidade que já existe há longos anos e à qual até eu próprio tenho uma experiência pessoal. Portanto, é algo que me diz muito. E, portanto, é preciso cuidar de quem cuida, criar ações, projetos e atividades no sentido de proteger as pessoas que são cuidadores informais. E esta realidade é ainda mais importante para os jovens, quando falamos de crianças e jovens que são cuidadores informais em Portugal. Por isso, o Instituto Português do Desporto e da Juventude, em colaboração com a Cuidadores de Portugal, tem desenvolvido um conjunto de ações para que estes jovens e estas crianças não percam a sua infância, não percam a sua juventude e a sua adolescência e possam ter as mesmas oportunidades, ter as mesmas condições que os outros jovens e as outras crianças. Daí termos realizado, por exemplo, um campo de férias para que no verão estes jovens possam usufruir de um conjunto de atividades que lhes permitam espairecer, digamos assim, e experimentar outras atividades que sejam úteis, que lhes possam ser importantes para a sua vida pessoal e até, quem sabe, ajudá-los também na sua função de cuidadores. E o Instituto está também nesta parceria para que se possam criar outras oportunidades para que estas crianças e estes jovens possam ser jovens de pleno direito e ter a sua condição social, a sua condição educativa e poderem progredir e ser cidadãos de pleno direito. É essa a nossa aposta, é para isso que cá estamos e é para isso que colaboramos com Cuidadores de Portugal.
Neste Dia Europeu do Cuidador, gostaria de felicitar a Associação de Cuidadores de Portugal pelo projeto Jovens Cuidadores, que tem este olhar atento a uma realidade invisível na nossa sociedade. São muitos os jovens que em Portugal, mas também nos outros países da Europa, têm que abdicar da sua vida pessoal para cuidar de um familiar próximo ou um familiar alargado, pondo em causa o seu crescimento integral, o seu direito à educação ou o comprometimento da sua saúde mental. É por isso fundamental criar forma de olhar para esta realidade e para encontrar estratégias que possam resultar em soluções para estes jovens, que possam encontrar um equilíbrio entre apoiar e acompanhar quem amam e o direito à sua vida pessoal, encontrando outros recursos que os ajudem para que não se sintam sós e abandonados. Queria felicitar a Associação de Cuidadores de Portugal por esta iniciativa, que junta parceiros nacionais e internacionais para falar desta realidade e que tenta, em Vila Nova de Gaia, experimentar um projeto concreto para jovens cuidadores que possa depois ser disseminado por todo o país. Para a Comissão Nacional de Promoção dos Direitos e Proteção de Crianças e Jovens, é um privilégio fazer parte desta rede e poder continuar, em conjunto com quem está no terreno, a encontrar soluções para que todos os jovens de Portugal, todos os jovens em Portugal, possam sentir que têm direito a ter direitos e possam ter o seu crescimento integral assegurado, encontrando soluções para isso. A todos, muito obrigada e desejo um ótimo encontro.
Now we are two, of course, and the team it cannot be here, but I would like to highlight also this ecosystem is supported by internationally not only by Professor Saul Becker, but also by Eurocares. And I must say that Eurocares really helped us to inspire and to get this new approach to younger cares. And so let's hear the direction. Stacy Yemonos from the Eurocares Association based in Brussels.
Dear colleagues, I'm delighted to welcome you to this conference on young carers, co-hosted by Cuidadores Portugal and my organization, Eurocarers. Childhood is often seen as a protected stage of life where adults are in charge and provide care, while children and adolescents are essentially beneficiaries of care. But for many children and adolescents in Europe, this is far from being true, as they find themselves providing sometimes very intensive levels of long-term care to a family member with an illness, a disability, a mental health issue, or an addiction. These young carers assume a level of responsibility that would normally be associated with an adult. While issues related to informal care, the provision of unpaid long-term care by adults, and the impact of this informal care on these carers' social and professional life are slowly gaining political traction in Europe, young carers still largely remain an invisible group in the eyes of policymakers and service providers. As a result, and as you will hear today, young carers may struggle in their education, their access to employment, they may face discrimination, stigma, mental health issues, and social exclusion. Now, all of this also has long-lasting negative consequences for our society as a whole. It goes without saying that from our perspective, this is unacceptable. Young carers should be able to enjoy the same opportunities in life as any other kids or teenagers. Supporting them is not only a question of human rights, it is a social investment. In our experience, policymakers and service providers are very often unaware of the challenges faced by young carers and the possible measures to prevent or address the situation. This is the reason why this event is so important. Eurocarers is committed to shedding light on the situation and needs of all informal carers across Europe. Our mission is also to generate the policy action needed to identify, support, and listen to them. Now, naturally, this also concerns young carers. So I sincerely hope that this conference will allow to delineate the policy initiatives and support measures that could or should be put in place in Portugal to allow young carers to move out of the shadows. Finally, let me say that last year, at the peak of the pandemic, my organization launched a big communication campaign, a European Carers Day, in order to raise public awareness about carers' role in society, but also, of course, to support policy change. This celebration takes place every year on the 6th of October, and the theme for this year is Young Carers. So, to conclude, I would like to wish you a very happy European Carers Day, and I look forward to continuing the collaboration with you all for the benefit of young carers and all informal carers across Europe. I wish you a productive meeting.
So, and for last, we would like to thank to all the persons that are attending our meeting. And I would like to say some words. Anna is one of the biggest leaders here in Cares Portugal. And we will end this webinar with a message from the President of Portugal, Professor Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa. Many thanks. He has been a strong ambassador for the causes of the cares, and now to raise awareness of thousands of cares. And this is not only a question of dignity, but also social investment, as Stacy said. A lot of things must be done in terms of political issues, in terms of raising awareness, in terms of identifying proactively, in terms of supporting cares, in terms of assisting them and listen to them. So I am very happy to close this webinar with the message of our president. And it was a pleasure to be your host in this webinar event. And if you are interested in making part of this commitment, please contact City Council or as ourselves. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
Caras amigas e caros amigos, para Vila Nova de Gaia vai o meu abraço solidário. A realidade dos cuidadores informais e o apoio ao seu estatuto legalmente reconhecido é uma causa justa, uma causa de milhares e milhares de portuguesas e portugueses. Em rigor, uma causa de todos os portugueses. Uma causa social e politicamente transversal. É uma causa de dignidade humana e, por tudo isso, uma causa do Presidente da República que, desde o primeiro momento, até apoiado. Antes de haver o Estatuto Legal, depois de haver o Estatuto Legal, mas não a regulamentação, depois de se verificar que a regulamentação é insuficiente. O evento que hoje vos reúne quer ir mais longe nesta causa, dando visibilidade aos jovens cuidadores, a quem este ano é dedicado o Dia Europeu do Cuidador, que hoje se assinala. Trata-se de uma realidade, porventura ainda mais invisível do que a da generalidade dos cuidadores, sendo até difícil imaginar que existam crianças e jovens cuidando dos pais, dos avós, dos irmãos, quando deviam estar a brincar, a estudar, a namorar, a sair, a divertirem-se, a descobrirem o mundo. E o problema começa precisamente aí, a identificar e conhecer estas crianças e jovens. O levantamento que é feito dos cuidadores informais, como sabem, é muito insuficiente. Não corresponde à realidade. E então o levantamento de crianças e jovens cuidadores informais praticamente não existe. Ora, é preciso esse levantamento, porque só com ele será possível avaliar as suas necessidades para encontrar as respostas e os apoios adequados. Antes do mais, apoio psicológico. Eu conheço, por experiência pessoal, a vida e a experiência dos cuidadores informais, por via daquilo que foi a minha intervenção enquanto voluntário de cuidados paliativos. Sei como é exaustiva, mais do que intensa, muito emotiva, muito exigente, particularmente desgastante e imensas vezes dolorosa. Neste caso, de crianças e jovens, uma experiência que é como que potenciada ou exponenciada nos seus efeitos e implicações pela infância ou juventude dos cuidadores. Porque são crianças e jovens que necessitam igualmente de apoio nos estudos, nas atividades recreativas, no lazer, na integração familiar, na inserção local, naquilo que é a participação na sociedade civil como um todo, para poderem realmente exercer os seus direitos e, sobretudo, prosseguir todo o potencial das suas vidas, levá-lo mais longe que seja viável. É seguramente uma causa dificílima, mas muito mobilizadora. Identificar o número e as características das crianças e jovens cuidadores informais. Depois, saber quais as suas necessidades, de toda a ordem, e quais as respostas para essas necessidades. Mas é por ser uma causa difícil que o Presidente da República, mesmo fisicamente ausente, não pode deixar de acompanhar de modo solidário e de valorizar aos olhos de todos os portugueses. Espero que o vosso encontro, a vossa troca de experiências, possa significar mais do que um debate teórico, mais do que uma reflexão conjuntural. Constitua um alerta para a realidade dos jovens cuidadores, interpelando todas e todos os portugueses.